Good morning, everyone, and welcome into another edition of WST Sunday Live. My name is Connor Hrabchak. Today, I'm joined by Lyss, Houde, and soon to be joined by Jacob Stoller. He's having some camera issues behind the scenes. He is going to be here. Jacob Stoller, you know him from sportsnet.ca. He will be joining the show today as well as he returns from parts unknown, a very sunny vacation, and he has rejoined us here in the harsh Winnipeg winters. But the Winnipeg Jets last night pick up a huge 3-0 win over the Colorado Avalanche, one of their more impressive wins of the season. The night before that, a 2-1 overtime loss to the LA Kings. We're going to break it all down here on the latest edition of WST Sunday Live. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live here at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, bright and early, to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. Lyss, how are you doing this morning?
Good. I'm feeling energized. You know, some Sundays I show up here and I'm like, guys, like, I need this coffee more than I need anything else. Like, I'm good. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling like last night's game just, I don't know, the energy from the players afterwards was contagious. Like, I just feel like we all feel good this morning.
Yeah, that's what happens when you beat a division opponent, and one of the more impressive wins of the season, like I said off the top. I don't know where you want to start with this game. I mean, maybe we'll start with the fact Colorado scored 0. I think both with the Connor Hellebuyck angle and the team defense angle, but I'll just give you kind of the floor, the buffet, if you were Ken Wiebe on me and Rennie. But what did you see from last night's game, the 3-0 win over Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've spoken about this sort of thing when the Winnipeg Jets started off 2025 with a few L's in the column there, where I was saying not all wins, not all losses are created equal, and I'm okay with those losses. They weren't horrible, whatever. The last 2 games, to me, the Winnipeg Jets have been really, really sound when it comes to pushing players to the outside. Last night in particular, sticks and lanes was a big thing. I think that's one thing that I notice more when I'm in person, but all that's to say, like, a whistle's a whistle when the puck goes up into the netting. And we had a lot of those yesterday, and especially in the first and third periods, I feel like, because that second period had a long stretch with very, very little whistle going on.
Yes.
But all that's to say, the Colorado Avalanche spent a lot of time along the boards and along the outside and behind the net when they had possession of the puck in the offensive zone, which is exactly what you want. You know, you can attempt to get the puck back from them, whatever, but if they are going to have the puck, you want it to be in those least interesting areas as they possibly can be. And the Winnipeg Jets did not allow a lot from the middle of the ice, which is a huge, huge, huge bright spot to look at in terms of this weekend.
Yeah. And I don't know, the first period and maybe the first couple minutes of the second, I felt a lot like it was the playoffs last year where Colorado was cycling the puck. And then I flipped on natural stat trick just to see the chances, right? But Colorado had the puck the whole time. McCarr and McKinnon were doing their thing, creating chaos in the offensive zone. But then you look over at natural stat trick and the scoring chances were even. The Jets had more high danger chances at the time. Well, from that point forward, the high danger chances in the final 2 periods of this game were 9-0 for the Jets. And the scoring chances in the game, I think, were 22-14 for Winnipeg. So, and yeah, Jay Miller brought it up. Only 22 shots on goal against for McKinnon and McCarr and Rantanen. And I don't care that the Avs have played 3 games in 4 nights, and this was their 3rd game in 4 nights.
It's still the Avs. Like,
it's still the Avs. They're still like the most talented players in the world. And to hold them to only 22 shots is ridiculous. And
well, and this is a game though that, you know, I talk about this a lot. There are lots of different analytics you can look at. There are lots of different numbers that can describe the game that you've just watched. Some of them are more important to me than others as a general rule of thumb. And then others are more important to me than others, specifically when looking at the Winnipeg Jets. And last night, the Winnipeg Jets did not win the Corsi battle, right? And if you don't know what Corsi is, right, that's shot attempt ratio, right? Like, you just look at how many shot attempts are in the game, who had more, that's it. It's nothing fancy. Winnipeg Jets are all about shot selection and high quality shots. And you can let the Colorado Avalanche pepper Connor Hellebuyck all day if you really feel like it. Like if they're shooting from the outside hash marks, like, okay, have fun. Like there were a couple times that, you can tie up the screening forward and push him out, whatever. And if Connor Hellebuyck gets a shot point blank that, isn't off the rush or it's just off the cycle, he's going to stop those, right? So yes, I know, and we'll hear Kevin Sawyer say it on the TSN broadcast at times that, any shot can go in. Sometimes you just need shots. And that's something that the Winnipeg Jets, in my opinion, need to do a better job of when they aren't playing well, when they're losing. You sort of just need to start getting higher shot volume just to try and generate a little bit of something. I do believe that. But generally speaking, in a game like last night, high danger chances way up for the Winnipeg Jets, but shot attempts weren't. I am more than okay with that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And let's get to Scott O'Neill's thoughts. I see Jacob is finally getting his camera working in the backstage there, so we'll bring him in after this. But here's Scott O'Neill's kind of just blanket thoughts on the game last night and the Jets' ability to do what you said, Lyss, and keep the Colorado Avalanche to the outside.
Your group so far?
Yeah, it's probably when I thought last night, like I said, last night was a playoff game, and I thought we didn't score, but we really checked well. We did a great job of kind of battling. Tonight, I thought we put it all together. It was really a real solid game, or against a different opponent compared, where we knew that LA wasn't going to give us much room to work. These guys, there's a transition and speed game that they have, and I thought we did a fantastic job of kind of limiting that.
Coaches often talk about having good sticks, and probably need multiple hands to count how many times, like, where it looked like something might be developing in the slot and you guys would get a stick on it and it deflect into the crowd or the netting or whatever. Is that an example of active and good sticks?
Yeah, I mean, we've always talked about and preached about the guts of the ice. The puck's going to try to get it. The opposition's going to try to get it there, and so being one step ahead. And both they are good sticks, and also I like the way we eliminated people. I don't mean like crushing hits. So we got in front of people, kind of not allowed them to get to the spots that they wanted to get to, and just kind of, the stuff that did happen, a lot of it came from the outside.
So there it is, Scott O'Neill on last night's win. And we have Jacob Stoller here now with us from Sportsnet.ca. His camera's working, he's looking good. Jacob, how you doing this morning?
Doing well. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Thank God. Okay, this is my laptop camera, which actually doesn't look that bad, but it was a process to get here. Yeah, I think it looked bad before because I had so many crumbs on my camera and dirt, so we removed that, and now we're here on Sunday morning. Sorry that I'm late, guys, but where are we at?
Last night's game. Go for it. What were your just blanket thoughts?
Buffet? Just go to the buffet.
Buffet. Go to the buffet. Yeah.
Well, I remember at one point I turned to Lyss and I was like, I think it was the first, second period, I was like, how well do you think they're defending the slot? I heard you just mention
you caught that really early, actually. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I was like, how well do you think they're defending the slot? And actually, I said it to both of you. And Connor was like, to be determined. And Lyss was like, I think pretty good. And I was like, yeah, I think so too. I think our confusion was because Colorado at times was spending time in the guts of the ice. But as Arneil just alluded to, the Jets were getting a lot of sticks on plays and they kind of negated any high tip opportunities. There was a lot to like structurally from that vantage point. My blanket thoughts of the game, though, I mean, we could talk about Connor Hellebuyck. We could talk about Scheifele, who's been an absolute master low-key in the high slot this year, or the inner slot. But to me, I walk away from that game, and I can't stop thinking about how much I love the Lowry and Ehlers combination. And I think that, I don't know if any WST listeners can remember, but I have receipts of this. It was early in the year, one of our first shows, I was very big on saying, put Lowry as the 2C, see what you have. And for me, I look at that game as, and I think we and Connor walking out of there, and I was saying how Arneil saying it's intriguing me, like that combination. I'm kind of thinking now. I think that line's going to continue. Yeah, I think that was a huge quote. My takeaway from that line is this: what Lowry is able to do and Ehlers is able to do, like these two perfectly need one another. Okay, I think that Lowry is such a valuable play driver. We've seen it year after year, and I think that he's been able to even do more than what we've seen so far in his career if he had better line mates. I'm talking statistically, right? Ehlers, on the other hand, this year, especially 5-on-5, is playing with two guys that are miscasted in the second line role, or better yet, miscasted as his line mates in a second line role.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
put those two together, and even in a matchup against McKinnon, what you have is this. Lowry's a guy that creates space for other players. He wins battles. He's able to come through the middle of the ice quite efficiently and powerfully, and that's no easy feat. Ehlers has that explosive speed that gets you out of the zone. In turn, you spend less time in your zone, and they did that against Colorado. And then once you're in the offensive zone, you have Iafallo, who's their winger, as kind of the digger on that line.
Mm-hmm.
Lowry does the same thing, and then you let Ehlers cook. And that's what you saw amount to, in my opinion, Ehlers' best all-around game this year.
Yeah, and here, let me just quickly get to some comments. Jacob, you asked Scott O'Neill after the game why he thought Adam Lowry works for Nikolai Ehlers and whether he thought it was Nikolai Ehlers' best all-around game of the season. Here's what Scott O'Neill had to say.
Well, Lau does a great job in our end coming from underneath, in the breakouts, supporting pucks. And that means when that happens, that allows the wingers to blow out. That allows them to get early speed. If it's a contested puck and you're slow and it's not, the centerman isn't there for support, you've got to stop too. So Lau is so good at underneath support for our defense. It allows, like I just mentioned, it allows that winger, especially if he's on the weak side, to just take off and go. And now he's up and running. And for Lau, it's or Al or our defenseman, put it to space and let him go get it.
Goals aside, do you think that was one of the most complete games you've seen from Nikolai Ehlers this season?
I don't know about this season. I would say coming back from the injury, I'd say that's probably one of his best.
So there it is, Scott O'Neill saying that this was probably one of Ehlers' best games since returning from injury, and I think we all can agree with that statement. Nikolai Ehlers coming back kind of in a few games ago, a few weeks ago, and hasn't really looked the same until last night. I do want to say that line was matched up against Nathan McKinnon all night long. Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Jonathan Drouin, and they outshot them. They outchanced them. They had a goal at 5-on-5 to start the game. They got the empty net goal late, so they were defending the game late as well. I mean, if you scripted the perfect game against Nathan McKinnon, it would have been what Lowry, Ehlers, and Iafallo did last night on that second line. So that was an incredibly impressive performance. I thought it was Ehlers' best game of the season, hands down. Like, even goals aside, I thought away from the puck, he didn't have those back-breaking giveaways that you see him have almost on a nightly basis. He didn't have one of those. And I thought that line was great. Lyss, what did you think of that trio? And then you can maybe even touch on the Niederreiter Perfetti trio, which was kind of the trickle-down effect on that next line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I found most interesting about that, well, pairing in particular is just that, and by pairing I mean Lowry and Ehlers, is that there are kind of two ways that you can manage the McKinnons of the world, right? Or attempt to manage the McKinnons of the world. And though this metaphor has some holes, I'm kind of building you guys up for me having a horrible analogy here. You can fight fire with fire. You can fight fire with water, right? Sometimes you go best on best offense and you put out the Mark Scheifele line against the Nathan McKinnon line and then hope that your depth scoring will kind of come out of the woodwork a little bit and manage, the Parker Kelly line or whatever, and take advantage of the space that you leave by sort of going head to head with your best. The other option that you can sort of do is really, really lean on that fire with water thing and put your best defensive line out there, your grinders, whatever, and just try and shut them down and give your offense a little bit more space to work with, right? Yeah. I've always been a little bit more pro the latter in this situation of playing the Lowry line against the McKinnon line, McDavid line, whatever you want to call it, just because I don't know that Mark Scheifele's line wins a best on best battle against some of those crazy elite talents in the world. That has changed a little bit this year. I think Mark Scheifele is, playing some of the best hockey of his career, but also who says you can't do both? And I feel like if I'm the McKinnon line last night, and Scott O'Neill specifically mentioned, wasn't just the line matchup, he mentioned the player matchup of Rantanen versus Ehlers. That was the goal there of matching the speed. I don't know how I manage that if I'm the McKinnon line. I don't know if I know exactly how. That's something that maybe you can build a book on. That's maybe something you can learn a little bit about, but there's not a lot of video of that pairing playing together. So you can't really do a lot of studying up before the game. Right. And just stylistically, they're so different. And the risk you run with that is that maybe they don't work together. But if they do, that is a difficult thing to play against. So I'm very, very intrigued by that situation we kind of found ourselves in last night.
Connor, I want to tee you up for what we talked about walking out of the arena. about the idea of a different Lowry line. And I went to the buffet
Yeah.
a little bit, but I'll tee up what I said, and we had a good
Go
conversation as
for it.
we were
Yeah.
freezing our butt off the corner of City Place. But it stems from what Lyss is saying. You know, I think in a playoff series or in any ideal matchup, you have Adam Lowry playing off against the best team center, right? But here's the idea that the Lowry line is the Lowry line and not just Lowry and co, in my opinion, in those tough matchups is a myth. Okay, Nino Niederreiter isn't a player on any other team that is in a shutdown role. That's not a knock on Nino Niederreiter. It's actually the reality of what he is as a player. He's a high volume shooter, a good forechecker, right? Mason Appleton, I don't think is cast. He might be in a shutdown role, but he's not going to be having those elite on ice impacts. That's Adam Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take Adam Lowry, you pair him with Nikolai Ehlers and then Iafallo, who told you, Connor, on the way to the game, I think that Iafallo is underappreciated. You get a different look. And I think that it's Lyss's point of fire to fire. And it's my point to you, Connor, that you shuffle the middle six and you put Perfetti and Nino on a third line with Kupari or whoever else, and maybe go get a new 3C instead of a 2C, because you have a 2C in Adam Lowry. That's my take.
Yeah.
Well, and the last thing I'll just say on that super quick is that I think personally how I follow this team right now is I think we need to throw out this, like, people in the chat were talking, okay, trading for a 2C, whatever. I look at it as middle six centers now. I think you go first and fourth, and then I think there's some movement there in terms of, Adam Lowry is your 2C, but your third line, like you said, let's get outside of this box that we've put ourselves in of what that line has to look like and actually find right stylistic fits.
I agree with both of you wholeheartedly. And my part of this, and Jacob and I were just going back and forth and talking about how this makes too much sense when really, like, I don't think we really analyzed the negatives of it, but when you really talk it out, it is good to step outside the box and see if you can kind of reimagine that line. My takeaway from it was the Avs are third in the Central right now. They're fighting with Dallas. They might end up as the first wild card. Say if the standings ended how they were today, I don't think the Jets would play the Avs in the first round. I think they'd be playing Dallas. But on the off chance that the Jets were playing the Avs again in the first round, and you go into game one with Connor Scheifele-Velarde, Ehlers, whoever you want, Perfetti, Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, and you get shelled in game one, what's the plan? Because last year you got shelled every single game. Yeah, you won game one in a track meet where Georgiev let up like 5 goals above expected. But every single other game...
It's
Forgiev,
by Forgiev, sir.
7 Giev in that game. But what's the plan at that point, right? In the playoffs where you're up against Nathan MacKinnon. And I really like the idea of last year in the playoffs as well. It felt like the Lowry line was told to go out and shut them down and just play defense. And they were just like surviving every shift. Every single shift was just a prayer that MacKinnon and McCarr wouldn't score. They would be in their own end for a minute and a half. And yes, they would block shots, they would get in lanes, do all these things, but it was just, they would not contribute anything offensively because they were just playing defense the whole time. With Nikolai Ehlers, it gives you kind of an element where you can move the puck up the ice, you can play a little bit of offense, you can even score, and like we saw last night, even outshoot, outchance, outscore, out everything, the MacKinnon line, which is a legit thing. And whether or not it's going to work long-term, I think you have to find that out. It might not, but again, you need another option where if you go into game one against the Colorado Avalanche with the same lines that you've been running all year long and you get shelled, you need to have a backup plan. And this can be plan A. I 100% agree with you guys, but it's more realistic that this will end up being a plan B. And I think the Jets can still find that out over this next week, starting with Tuesday.
Well, I think what's fun about that, right, is that I think, oh boy, I'm trying to remember what game we saw it in, but couple of games ago, Jets had a really poor, it was the Detroit game. Jets had a really poor first period. And what do? Plan B, Scheifele, Ehlers, Velarde, right? Like they put those guys up.
Connor, Scheifele,
Ehlers. Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, my bad. Anyways, bumping Ehlers up to the top line. Yeah. We know that this team kind of can, and I put that with a heavy asterisk just because obviously you've been flirting between first and fourth in the entire NHL all season. It's not like we've had dire moments of this team needing to do anything crazy, but it looks like there is a little bit of response that they're looking to, shakeups, whatever. And they know who you want to try and put together, who you want to try and do. And you use the word realistic, and I'm not sure if I entirely agree with you on that, though.
Me
Do
too.
you
Really?
genuinely believe that this team saw last night and was like, our new plan A is to try Lowry and Ehlers together? Because I still think
Counter.
they will revert. But
Counterpoint.
Wait. Liz,
Counterpoint?
are you saying, sorry, are you asking us if we think that after that game that they now think that Lowry and Ehlers is planning, or other way around?
yes. Like, do you actually think that they're going to try and run with that for as long as they can now?
I
No.
do.
I don't. Lyss, where
Yeah.
are you at on that? You think they will?
No.
I
No.
don't think they
I think
will.
we see it again.
I think we
Put
see
it
it
that way.
again, but that's because Appleton is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I listen. I understand that the Jets' decisions I don't always agree with, but I'm gonna say that I think that within the organization, after seeing that, and after seeing how the Lowry line over the last couple weeks hasn't been fantastic at tilting the ice, is curious in that. And I also think too, there ought to be a push from management, because I'm sure when they have their pro scouting meetings, which I think is in 2 or 3 weeks, or it could be in a month from now, they're going to be at the table saying, yeah, there's no 2Cs available except Brock Nelson, guys. So we probably need a middle 6C, as Lyss said. So I think that if a
Yeah.
team sees this and goes, okay, wait a second, we may have a 2C in Adam Lowry, maybe not a traditional one. And if we can have a line that can shut down or be up to par with other teams' top lines, then we just get another center that can butt Vlad down to 4 and someone that can play with
Yeah.
Nino and Perfetti, then we have a different story here. And then you make an upgrade on D as well. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are probably intrigued with this. I'm not about to go. I'm going to take back what I said, because I think that they will continue this, but I've been proven wrong so many times that I'm going to just stay out of predictions.
This is very Chipperkov coded, where
This
you
is
think
true.
the Jets are
Big
going
Dog
to be
Bill,
forward
Bill.
thinking. Yeah, the Jets are going to be forward thinking, and it's like, no, we've seen this story before. They're just going to go back to the ways.
I just
that
wish
they
I
know.
didn't make that take, because I think I would rather die on the hill of this take.
This one.
I think the thing
Fair enough.
that's interesting here is just that this is how lineup decisions work, right? And we've talked about this in the past, where it's like, okay, if your top line's not working, but your other 3 are, and they're outscoring everyone like crazy, it's like that's hard to try and break that up. But the thing, like you just mentioned, you alluded to, the Lowry line hasn't been awesome, and neither has the Ehlers and Messica
Yo.
Perfetti line. My God, that line has been rougher. So you have 2 things that aren't really working. And if the pieces of those 2 things make an option that does work, well, hell, why not? Right. So I do see the line of, well, not the line of thinking. Of course, I see the line of thinking. I'm on board with the line of thinking. But I understand where you fall on that. It's one of those things that I think, yeah, you lose 4-1 in the first game to Dallas and everyone has a bit of an off night. That panic mode comes in and Lowry comes back out with Appleton and Niederreiter. And you know, like, I'm not sure if it's, yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure.
Well, another kind of angle to this, and this will be the last thing before we move on, is that a lot of people already are on Cole Perfetti's case in the chat today, and this gives him easier matchups. If he's on a traditional third line, and I'm not talking about an Adam Lowry-led third line, which is like, oh, we're going to play him against Nathan McKinnon. A traditional third line actually plays against other third lines and other middle 6 opponents, not the other team's best. If Nemestikov came back Tuesday night and they rolled with the exact same lines, plugged Nemestikov in at 3C with Niederreiter, Nemestikov, Perfetti, I think that line could do damage in kind of a sheltered role, and it would give Perfetti a little bit of a chance to maybe get up to speed with 2 talented offensive players. Niederreiter, high shot volume guy, that could work as well. Cole Perfetti, pretty good passer. He had a really good chance last night. He broke up a few plays. I thought he was fine last night, but I do think that bumping him down the lineup without bumping him to the 4th line or press boxing him or sending him down to the Moose or whatever extreme you want to take, it is a positive for Cole Perfetti. And Adam Lowry is on pace. We were talking about this last night, Jacob. Adam Lowry's on pace for like 19 goals this year, nearly 50 points. Yeah, like that's,
heck yeah,
for a guy that plays no power play minutes, that is a second line center. And
100%.
That's without even bringing up his defensive impact.
Well, and I
I
think
agree.
with Perfetti, the question before, and this was always we were, I think, always kind of on the same camp. We have different opinions on Cole Perfetti, but we were of the mind as a collective that okay, sure, take him off the second line, but you put him, he's not going to play with Lowry in the sense of he's not going to match up against McKinnon, nor should he, in my opinion. You put him down to the fourth line with David Gustafsson and Rasmus Kupari, you lose the element that makes Cole Perfetti a competitive hockey player. Like, you don't get the most out of him. You don't get a lot out of him. His line mates matter a lot. If you configure how you run your middle six, now I think we can start seeing a little bit more of that utility. And someone like Nino Niederreiter, who just drives the net, there are few players I trust on the team as much as Cole Perfetti to put a puck to the net, and that's a guy who will just crash and bang if you need him to. And I think that could be an interesting pairing.
But also, too, like, I think the thing with Perfetti, too, and I understand I've been critical of him all year, but I also, as much as I say that Ehlers is miscasted with Nemesnikov and Perfetti, I've always said that Perfetti's miscasted, like, with, like, those two are not good fits for Perfetti either.
No, that's why
So-
I'm iffy on Nemesnikov being the center on that line.
Yeah, like, I just think that you put Perfetti with Nino, there's a high shot volume guy, but there's also someone that can go in the corners and dig up pucks, right? And then whoever is your 3C, for now, it's Kupari in this hypothetical scenario. You've got speed up the middle.
Mhm.
You've got, or if you got a 3C that's got some physicality, that's another guy that can be in the boards there and do that. I think that there's just other ways that you can get flow out of Perfetti, and I don't think him, Ehlers, and Mesnikov, any of those guys are benefiting from being on that line. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think we can all agree, and people in chat can agree as well, that this new look is worth a look, worth an extended look.
Yeah.
And the Jets are still at home for the next 3 games against Vancouver, Seattle, and Calgary. Seattle and Calgary not in the playoffs right now. Vancouver barely in the playoffs right now. All 3 of those teams right around the wild card line in the West. So I'd like to see it happen, and we'll see if it ends up happening. I want to get to Dylan Samberg. He returned to the lineup after a 21-game absence after blocking a shot with a broken foot against the LA Kings. And on both nights that he played, on the two nights of a back-to-back and missing 21 games over a month and a half, he was the Jets' time on ice leader both nights in regulation. So before overtime in the LA Kings game, he played over 23 minutes. He was the Jets' time on ice leader. And last night, he was the Jets' time on ice leader, playing more than Morrissey, DeMello, all the other top defensemen. The Jets had to kill a few penalties, and Samberg plays on the PK and Morrissey doesn't. So I think that's where he gets the boost. But back-to-back games with Dylan Samberg being the time on ice leader in regulation. And I thought he played great. I mean, last night, Scardino talked about having good sticks and eliminating people, not necessarily crushing hits. And that is Dylan Samberg, like, to a T. Like, he is breaking up plays with his stick. He's not crushing people into the boards, but he's eliminating them, taking the puck, moving the puck up the ice. He's still blocking shots in the penalty kill. The first penalty kill back against LA, he went out, blocked a shot where there was no padding. He joked about it at the first intermission. Of course, it hit him in a spot with no padding. But Dylan Samberg is such a beast, and he's proven that he is one of the most important Jets in their lineup, just the way that they're configured. And Jacob, you said that when he got hurt, that maybe we weren't blowing it out of proportion enough, but he has proven his worth. And the Jets are 18-4-1 when Samberg's in the lineup this year. Obviously, big reason for that, the 15-1-0 start, but they're 18-4-1 with Samberg in the lineup. Like, that's huge. And I said it last night on Illegal Curve. It's no coincidence that Neil Pionk looked much better in these 2 games over the weekend as well. Jacob, you go ahead on Samberg first.
Yeah, and I also want to point out, like, I want to take a quick second to defend Neil Pionk, because I think that people seeing him away from Samberg was a way of like, oh, Pionk sucks, like, he's regressing. I think anyone that's going from playing with Dylan Samberg to, no disrespect, but Hayden Fleury, Logan Stanley, sometimes even Colin Miller, that's a big drop-off. And I think that what's benefited Pionk, which would benefit any defenseman, is Samberg is a complete stabilizer. What I mean by that is he's a defensive-oriented defenseman that can handle tough assignments. And starting this year, really, we've seen it. This is the guy that can move the puck out of the zone. Puck handling was his biggest thing. I remember talking to a couple of Jets before the year, like Dylan DeMello. He had a great quote to me where he was like, he was honest. He was like, I don't see why this guy can't be like a Jacob Slavin, or I don't remember the other player he referenced, but like a player that is long, rangy, and great defensively. And then he said, The next step for him, obviously, is offensively, but that'll come. And I like that honesty, and was true, and now we're seeing it. And I think that Dylan Samberg is a fantastic athlete. Anyone on the Jets will tell you that. And you can kind of see it where he's been able to adapt, progress, and really make a lot of plays with authority and strength this year. And that's the biggest part of his progression. I think that the emergence of Dylan Samberg this year has been massive for the Jets, because losing Dylan was a choice, or letting him walk, and it's one that's paid off, because now they have a guy that's stabilized and is a rock solid person on your second pair with room to grow. We haven't even seen the best of Dylan Samberg, I believe. I think that he's just getting started.
Absolutely.
And I love what he does. He's excellent on the penalty kill. And I think that he, as Connor said, he's an integral part of the team. And I said it when he went down, like that was going to be a crushing blow. It was. Like it killed them, and I think everyone's very grateful he's back in the lineup.
And just one thing before I get to your thoughts, Lyss. You said this last night, or sorry, it was Friday night that you tweeted this out, Jacob, but he has become so much more poised with the puck this year. You saw it on the first goal against Colorado, where Alex Iafallo and Dylan Samberg both kind of kill the play on the boards, again, without crushing the guy. They eliminate the play and steal the puck. And Dylan Samberg has the poise to not just like fire the puck off the glass and just kind of like panic and give the puck back to Colorado. He steps out, steps up and through two defenders, and then hits Nikolai Ehlers with a tape-to-tape pass in the neutral zone. Ehlers goes and does his thing on Cale Makar and Devon Taves and opens the scoring. So obviously Nikolai Ehlers does the bulk of that, but Dylan Samberg being able to kill plays on the wall this year, that's something he's always been able to do. But the next level for me has been what he's been able to do once he kills the play, once he gets the puck, moving it up the ice. And in a top four role, Arneil's talked about this a ton, you're playing with more skilled players. You're playing with the Scheifele line. You're playing with Nikolai Ehlers. Those guys expect the tape-to-tape passes, and Samberg has done it. And that's his most improved part of his game this year for me. Lyss, where are you at with Samberg?
Yeah, I mean, he was a player that irritated me last year for simply the selfish reasons of I really like putting players in boxes. If you're good at this, you're bad at that. And what he was quote unquote bad at was one of those like unfortunately intangible things of like he's just not super confident with the puck and a little bit of under pressure decision making, a little like that sort of stuff that's a little bit less my speed when it comes to trying to evaluate players and whatnot. But yeah, that confidence, as simple as that sounds, like you said, that's not a pass that Dylan Samberg of 2022 makes by any means. And I think it's huge to watch him sort of come into his own. And Jacob, I could not agree more with you that we haven't even seen the best of him yet, right? Which is a huge positive to look for the Winnipeg Jets. And I also agree with you on the slight defense of the Neil Pionk camp, where I get a little bit fired up about Hayden Fleury, just in the sense of, I saw Murat had a tweet the other day that was like, he believes that the top 6 defenders for the Winnipeg Jets is some configuration of Morrissey DeMello, Samberg Pionk, Fleury Miller, which I think is a reasonable take to make at this point.
Yeah.
When we were in the off season and going into training camp, everyone was under the impression that Hayden Fleury was going to be playing for the Manitoba Moose this year. This is not a typical 5th defenseman having to jump up to play 4th defenseman minutes. This was a defenseman who had to jump up from 9th defenseman to playing high-end 4th defenseman minutes, right? Like, because the Winnipeg Jets do like to use that second pairing and stuff. So I think, the Neil Pionk comparison, like, it's not like he went from, like, I'm not trying to knock Hayden Fleury, but there's a huge difference in partners that he had to work with there. Like, there's a different stylistic fit too. Like, Hayden Fleury is not a shutdown, like, whatever defenseman, right? Like, that's not his style of game. So I think getting that pairing kind of back on its feet would be massive for the Winnipeg Jets. Jacob and I were sitting beside each other at the game yesterday, and we both kind of turned and looked at each other at one point when early in the game, Pionk just had a perfect management of a one-on-one situation of a player coming into the zone that he nailed it.
It was McKinnon.
Yeah. It wasn't just a guy either, right? Yeah, it was McKinnon, just perfect one-on-one management, which Neil Pionk is so good at, right? And there is a lot of potential for that Hermantown, or whatever you want to call it, pairing to just be really, really excellent. And we see flashes of it. And I think the healthier, the more confident that Dylan Samberg gets, they could be in okay shape.
But that's the one thing I wanted to say about what I was trying to say about Pionk, is that Samberg, given that he is that stabilizer, allows for Pionk to be aggressive. And it's not just offensively, it's defensively. It allows him to try to kill a play head on and know that Samberg's there to take on an odd man situation if it arises. So it's a double-edged sword there for sure.
This
And
is why, and maybe
Oh,
this is
sorry.
a crazy kind of derail sidebar, but I mean, who would I be if not doing something like that? I saw someone in the chat earlier mention, oh, you need to trade for Rasmus Andersson to play alongside Josh Morrissey, whatever. Like, chemistry with deep pairings is so huge, and like
Mhm.
I worry about it's kind of like when you trade for a goalie at the trade deadline. That rarely works out because the communication between a goaltender and particularly their defense is massive, and it takes a long time to establish that. And I think we're seeing how the Jets decor has become a little bit more consistent and things like that with their main key players. Yes, there's been some turnover in the bottom roles, but that's pretty typical. Watching how Josh Morrissey is playing some of his best hockey, Connor Hellebuyck's playing some of his best hockey, and a lot of that is based on the communication between those key parties. And so that's my fear. Obviously, I do want this team to bring in someone on the decor there, but like making do with what you have, I think is important to learn how to do as well, because you could trade for Rasmus Andersson and he could break his collarbone in the first game that he plays for the Jets, right? Like you got to work with what you've got right now. So I think it's really interesting, and I think we'll see some good hockey from the defense in the next few
For sure.
games, few weeks.
For sure. And Dylan Samberg stabilizing the second pairing is a big win for the Jets. The top pairing last night of Morrissey and DeMello, shot attempts 23-11, chances 9-1, high danger chances 5-1 when they were on the ice. So when you have Dylan Samberg on the second pair with Neil Pionk, and they're stabilizing that unit, and the Morrissey and DeMello pairing is playing that well, that's a recipe for success. And Connor Hellebuyck only had to make 22 saves, which was one of his easier shutouts of the season. He now has 6 on the season, which ties a career high. And Jacob, you had a tweet last night. He's tied his career high in shutouts, and it's January 11th, or it was last night at least, when he got that 6th shutout. So Connor Hellebuyck's been incredible. I mean, he has 2 shutouts in his 2 starts against the Avs this season. 57 shots on goal in those 2 combined games, both inside Canada Life Center. Comrie got the start on the road in the Jets' loss. But I feel like Connor Hellebuyck, from all the stories we've heard, is the kind of player, the kind of goalie, has the kind of drive where he spent all offseason watching the Colorado Avalanche and just hyper focused in. And now he's got 2 shutouts against them. And it's like, he is just so dialed in when his 2 starts against the Avs have been 2 of his better ones. Obviously, he got the shutouts in those games. But last night, I remember there was a chance Makar went to McKinnon on kind of a seam pass, and McKinnon went to one time it, but ended up faking it. But Connor Hellebuyck was set. He was there. He was ready. It would have been an easy save because it was from far out. But usually that's a play where the Avs are so dialed. They're so good at it. And Connor Hellebuyck's just been incredible with 26 wins on the season now, leading the NHL. Is there anything more to say? Do we need to talk about him anymore?
Well,
I can't. I need to just bring up that same amount of shutouts as losses into the new year of any NHL season is messed up for a starting goaltender. And this isn't game 3 of the season with, 1 shutout, 1 whatever. No, that's messed. That's crazy.
I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated about the lack of heart conversation nationally for Hellebuyck. If I do have a vote with the PHWA, I will be voting as of right now, Connor Hellebuyck for the Hart Trophy. And I don't just say that because I cover the market. I hear the arguments for Quinn Hughes. I hear the arguments for Leon Draisaitl. Those are maybe those are the guys that deserve to win it this year. Okay. But the idea that a trophy that has been for years by my colleagues, like writers, that has been harped on value, who provides the most value to a team? How can you not have Connor Hellebuyck cemented as a finalist for his award when he's done what he's done? And the Winnipeg Jets being in first place in the league, go on a historic run, that is a byproduct of Connor Hellebuyck's excellence. And I think that for a long time, the reason that goalies haven't been in the Hart finalists is because we haven't had a goalie that has been this dominant, I think, since Henrik Lundqvist, at least in our lifetime. I don't know if we've even a level of dominance that Carey Price. Carey Price. Thank you for correcting that. I would have got torched. Price for sure.
The Habs fans are already coming for you.
Yeah,
anyways,
but I just think
it's one of those things.
Yeah,
it irritates me, and I'm not gonna lie. Like the definition of the award gets kind of goofy, and you can talk about most valuable, whatever. Okay, yeah, Connor McDavid. We can get into all these arguments I'm sure we've had about value and relative value. One of the things that irritates me though is when the Hart winner is some guy on a team who barely squeaks into the wild card or misses the playoffs, whatever. It's like, okay, you can't be that valuable because your team still sucks, right? Like this is a team that is
like when
good.
Taylor Hall won. You're saying when Taylor Hall won.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. He was so good that year. He was so good that year.
I get it.
Mhm.
But that's not,
I get it.
to me, the essence of the award. This is, to me, exactly what the Hart Trophy should be. It's a team playing some of their best hockey. It's all these sorts of things. And then a guy who just brings them to that next level. And like right now, the Winnipeg Jets, yeah, the Central has some really interesting teams, flip-flop, whatever. Without Connor Hellebuyck, this team is what, third in the Central? Like let's not be like,
Are you
Even-
serious?
yeah, I don't want to take
Lyss,
away
this
from
is
the
a playoff
team's
team.
efforts, but
Lyss, this isn't a playoff team with Connor Hellebuyck.
I don't know. I think that's hard to say.
They'd
Because
be in the wild card race with like
Okay,
Vancouver and
They'd be in
and
the
those
wild
teams.
card race.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
think that I don't even mean. I just think
We don't even need to talk about that.
Okay, you're right.
no,
But one thing I will say,
I'm totally on your camp though.
okay, the one thing I will say is I said I would give my vote to Connor Hellebuyck, but one person that would give me pause, just want to say it quickly, won't get into it, is Jack Eichel. Because I think what he's doing this year is absolutely mental. Like this guy's
Unfortunately,
now
that's so fair.
this guy's now a
Unfortunately, that is
PK
so
horse.
fair.
This guy's now a PK horse, while also be on pace for 100 points. So that'd be hard to ignore. Bottom line, I think Connor Hellebuyck should be getting way more love, but when you're working in Winnipeg, we're used to this thing.
This can be your major NHL award campaign. You guys know how strong I am on the Gabe Velarde for Lady Byng campaign, so we'll each start our own agendas.
Exactly.
Let's do it. C-Mac here is saying that Helly's working on a quadruple crown: wins, goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. He's the first goalie to lead in all four of these stats this late into a season since Pete Peters did it for the Bruins in 1982-1983.
Oh my God.
He has the same amount of shutouts as regulation losses.
And he is top of the league in goals saved above average and goals saved above expected in a year where the average NHL save percentage is 900.
Is down. Yes. So the
900 is the average of the NHL.
That's messed up, actually.
And that's the lowest it's been since 2005 and the third lowest mark in the last 30 years. That save percentage number. So in a time of a goaltending epidemic where no one can find stability in the crease, Connor Hellebuyck is setting career highs and has the same amount of shutouts as regulation losses. Yeah, Pete Peters shutout. Every time, like Connor Hellebuyck had a stat last week, it was him and Jacques Plante, and now it's him and Pete Peters. It's like, what are we doing here? This is I wrote it in my column for Legal Curve earlier in the week. We're witnessing a Hall of Fame career before our very eyes. And I know people in chat are appreciating it. This is going to be the best Jets goaltender we see in our lifetime. Like there's not going to be a goalie player. Sure. Like there's not going to be a goalie 30 years from now where it's like, oh, him and Jacques Plante are the only two. Like this is historic stuff, people. This is
the best athlete the city will ever see, guys. Like, I think we need to take a step back here.
Whoa.
Am I wrong?
I mean, I'm not gonna go to bat for anyone else. I don't think.
That's exactly
It's just crazy to think about. Yeah.
I don't even mean that as a pessimistic view of the future. I just mean that, guys, we are witnessing a Hall of Fame player that is, maybe the Jets draft someone eventually that becomes that, but are they going to finish their career in Winnipeg? This is the greatest athlete that this city's ever been able to appreciate for a prolonged
lifetime
period.
Jet.
And like
even in the CFL,
stats to his whole career. Oh well, yeah, but this is the only top tier like team that the city has, right? Like the best NFL or football players who play in the NFL, right? So I get that, but I think where I fall is like I cannot stress enough how bad the Winnipeg Jets were a few years ago. Like this guy's career numbers are insane. The Winnipeg Jets were a bad hockey team playing in front of him for a very long time. The COVID era Winnipeg Jets, we cannot forget. We cannot forget what that team looked like. And the numbers that Connor Hellebuyck was able to put up, and I'm going to say it, in spite of them, were impressive. And now a more competent team in front of him. And it's just like the consistency is the huge thing. Like, obviously, he can dial in for a game and lock down like he did last night and everything like that. But holy smokes, since, the 2017, like how many years of just consistent league best goaltending we've seen from this guy is through the roof. Nobody's doing it like him. And now, and it's not only,
I feel like he has the team around him now to where he can reach all of these milestones, all of these wins
Exactly.
milestones, and the goals against average. That's more of a team stat than a goaltender stat. Yes, the goalie makes the saves, but goals against average is how many goals you give up as a team. And Connor Hellebuyck is first in that as well. So he's playing out of this world. He's the best goalie in the league. It's funny. We were joking in the press box last night. There was an article that said Mackenzie Blackwood is maybe inserting himself into the Vezina Trophy conversation. There is no Vezina Trophy conversation right now. Mackenzie Blackwood has
What
like
is
a
this
9.
conversation you speak
Hang
of? I don't
on.
know.
Who is moderating this conversation? Sorry.
No.
A goalie
Mackenzie
has
Blackwood
8 good games.
Yeah.
Dude, Mackenzie Blackwood's the good, but like Mackenzie Blackwood has 8 good games. It's like, you know what? Like maybe he'll win an award where like we're seeing one of the most historic NHL seasons ever. Totally.
Yeah.
I will not be
and
partaking
again,
in that conversation if you bring Mackenzie Blackwood to the table.
And again,
This year.
that conversation would never happen if Connor Hellebuyck played for the New York Rangers or whatever. Like it would never be always inserting himself into the Vezina Trophy conversation.
Though maybe people
those
are
conversations
saying,
are gonna.
Maybe
like,
people
what?
are saying like as a finalist. Like I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
I don't know.
As second place, sure. There's an argument for that.
I would say I
but we need to see
genuinely don't
more.
think pretty much anyone who's relatively aware of what's going on in the league as a whole, pretty much everyone knows who's number one on their ballot. And
It's gonna be
I could live with
unanimous
that.
vote. It's gonna be unanimous.
Wasn't it unanimous except for one last year?
Bill Zito, we think. Yes, he was unanimous except for one, and the one first place vote went to third place finalist Sergei Bobrovsky. So and it's voted on by the GMs.
Can you vote for your own goalie? Can you vote for your own goalie in this?
Really? I'm sure
Can
you
you?
can.
I'm asking.
I don't know.
Oh, I have no idea.
That's why everyone thought it was Bill
I'll ask
Zito,
Kevin next
Panthers
time I see
GM.
him.
Yes, exactly. Anyways, we've buried it long enough. Let's get to trending up, trending down. One of our favorite segments where we outline the Jets who are trending up and down over the last week of play. This is a segment where we outline who's trending up or down. The rules are simple. All three of us will pick a player who has been trending up or down, and we cannot repeat an answer that one of us says. We also can't repeat an answer that was said last week. So last week we picked Iafallo and DeMello for trending up, and Nemesnikov and Heinola for trending down. So those players are off the board for us. All of you who have joined us here live on YouTube, hit the chat room and let us know your picks as well for trending up, trending down. And while you're down there, hit the like button. We would really appreciate it. Lets YouTube know that we're putting out some great content. Maybe it's going to find some extra Jets fans as well if you hit the like button. So we would really appreciate that. Trending up, trending down.
Connor, just got to say super quick.
Yeah.
Look at us. Last week, DeMello and Iafallo trending up.
We
know what we're
crushed
talking
it.
about.
We
Look at
found the
this. Look at
trend.
this.
We found the trends early. Since we nailed it last week, let's let Jacob go first this week. Jacob, trending up. There's a lot of good options. I mean, coming off of a win, 3 points out of a possible 4 these last 2 games. Who do you think has been trending up for the Jets over the past week of play and last night?
Ooh. See, I want to say Lowry because of last night recency bias, but
Sure.
it's probably
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't know if this is anything different than what we usually see. I'm going to go a bit off the board, and I'm going to go with David Gustafsson. And I think low-key David Gustafsson's played some pretty solid hockey for what he is. I think we all expected David Gustafsson to be a better version of himself at this point of his career. He's a player, one of the few guys that Paul Maurice has ever played as a regular at 19 years old. I think that he has the tools to be an effective bottom 6 guy. I'm not going to say he's capable of being a third-line player on a cup team by any means, but I think what we're seeing from David Gustafsson now, like he started the year, they gave the fourth-line center role to Kupari.
Yeah.
Because they want to see what they had in him. If I look at the way that things have tilted, I think that if the playoffs started today, the 4C is David Gustafsson, not Rasmus Kupari. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think if you look at the last 15 or so games, what has Kupari done for you? Like, if you want to really look at it, smaller sample size for Gustafsson, don't get me wrong, and he didn't play for a long part of the year, but I just think that he's developing trust with Arniel, and I can see in some of the deployment, whether it's a little bit of PK time as well. And I'm on the Gus bus. All aboard, guys, because I'm a fan. I think he's been treading up. That's just what I've seen from the last week and the last little bit. We'll see how things play out, but that's kind of my recency bias there. trending down.
No,
Whoa, whoa,
no.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
No.
whoa.
We go right. We go up first.
Yeah,
We go up first.
yeah.
We go up 1st
I'll go.
It's been a bit. It's been a while, guys.
It's going to be a snake draft. So you're going last for trending down. This is the tough
This
part.
is so fun. I love this game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
Here, I'll go next. Phyllis had the comment up here. This is literally my list that I wrote down for players trending up, but I'm going to take Dylan Samberg. We talked about him a lot off the top of the show. He returned to the lineup, so this is kind of an easy pick. But not only did he return to the lineup and just played in the top 4, he was great on the penalty kill. He was great out 5-on-5. He was poised with the puck. He didn't look, out of shape. He didn't look rusty after missing 21 games. He stepped in and looked like the Dylan Samberg he was pre-injury. So I know it's an easy pick. It's chalk. But I'm going to go with Dylan Samberg for my trending up. Lyss, who are you going to go with for trending up?
Yeah, Jacob flirted with mine a little bit, and I think it's worth giving an actual slot on our trending up segment too. I'm going to go with Adam Lowry. I think that This is a guy who I was thinking about this yesterday, and there was a time a few years back when Adam Lowry signed his extension that I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. That amount of term to a bottom 6 guy, not sure, whatever. That is probably the wrongest take I have ever had about the Winnipeg Jets. Was my
wrongest?
Wrongest?
Yeah.
Is that a word?
No, it's not. It's
No,
not.
it
It's
can't
not.
be.
Can't
be.
There's no way
I-
that's a word.
No
it's
way.
not. It's not. I like to throw those. It's a very Wicked term. What is it? The disgustified or whatever, those fake words they use in Wicked. But my most incorrect take of all time, if you want me to be grammatically correct here, was Adam Lowry and the value that he brings to this team. And I think this is one of those things that, like you said, maybe a bit of recency bias. They were awesome yesterday, but Adam Lowry has been so consistently solid for the past 2 seasons with the Winnipeg Jets. And I think this year he's been such an instrumental part of the team. And I haven't always loved Niederreiter. I haven't always loved Appleton this season, but Lowry has been pretty damn good. And this is a guy who comes out and certain guys are maybe a little bit more, you can tell a little bit more when they're having an off night. Someone like Nikolai Ehlers is just when you're a player who lives out loud, speaks their truth and on the ice the way that Nikolai Ehlers says.
Yeah.
When he's off, you can tell, right? Adam Lowry's a little bit less of an acute player like that, but he is just consistent night in, night out. And I think he's a guy who has stepped up in this particular role. They say, hey, you're going to play with Nikolai Ehlers. And he says, bet, let's go. I think Adam Lowry he's my trending up for this week. He's been awesome.
Love it. Love it. Those are great picks. I'm very biased, but all 3 of us nailed it. Let's go with trending down. Lyss, it's snake draft. You're coming back in the second round here. Trending down. Let you go first, which is a little bit tougher after a win, I will say.
Yeah, when I made a list of a couple of different things here, and I had a lot of guys on my trending up list. The trending down one is a little bit more difficult. And I look back at our history of this game and when we've been playing it. Nobody has said Logan Stanley in 5 weeks, so I think now's the time. I think I'm allowed to give Logan Stanley a little bit of heat here. Logan Stanley gets my trending down this week. I thought he played really poorly earlier this week, and last night I thought he was okay. But this is a player that, while I think there have been some areas of growth for sure, I don't feel extremely confident in, and I think that, for the sake of trying not to be mean to this player or anything like that, because I do genuinely think he is a really, really nice guy. And it's not, he doesn't make the lineup decisions here or anything like that. He's punching above his weight class right now. And I'm not saying that as a joke in terms of, the enforcer situation here. I give my trending down to Logan Stanley this week.
All right. We kind of spared him last week because he dominated a lot of our conversation, and I didn't want to, we didn't want to pile on. But I'm going to go trending down Cole Perfetti. Again, I thought he played fine last night, but he is moving down in the lineup currently on that third line with Kapari and Niederreiter. He still hasn't scored in a handful of games. I think it's about 10 or so now. I don't have the exact game amount. But I'm going to go with Cole Perfetti. Again, he had a really nice chance against Colorado where Niederreiter kind of drove the net. Perfetti was there. Blackwood got the stop. He had a few nice plays in the LA game, won a board battle against Anze Kopitar, spun off of him, made a nice pass into the slot. Like, there are flashes of the Cole Perfetti that we know that is successful, but we're just not seeing it consistently enough right now. So I'm going to go with Cole Perfetti for trending down. Jacob, you are last for the last trending down pick. This is a tough one coming off of a win. Who are you going to go with?
I teed up before, but I'll go with Rasmus Kupari, and I'll get into that.
Goes
a
hand
little
in
bit.
hand with your
Goes hand in hand.
you're
Yeah,
trending up. Yeah, there you go.
exactly. And I think that with Kupari, the thing I'm struggling with is in the first bit of the year, I've always been looked at Rasmus Kupari and thought this is a fast player that does a whole lot of nothing. And to start the year, to my surprise, he was able to be really involved in the forecheck, help that Iafallo and Barron, that trio of him, Iafallo and Barron, get into the zone and create a lot of offensive zone time. Now we're kind of teetering back to territory of what does this player do? And I just think that if people talk about the goals, or like he scored 1 goal, 2 goals, whatever, 2,
2, I think. 2.
And one of them was just his stick received Morrissey's slap pass, which I didn't think there was that much of a skill. It flooded off of it. It's
Opening
not really
night.
that I care so much about.
Yeah.
Like when Morgan Barron didn't have a goal, I thought he's still playing some elite hockey. Like I really don't care. Given how the Jets construct their fourth lines and want for them, I don't care if Kupari has no goals. But for me, it's like you're not bringing offense. I don't know how great he is defensively. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the reason mainly he's trending down for me is a lot less entries from Rasmus Kupari, a lot less possession down the middle being driven by him. So you factor that all in, and I will beg the question again, what is Rasmus Kupari doing out there? So for me, he's trending down.
It's so funny. Every time I go to a game, I choose a different thing that I feel like looking into for a particular game, whatever, when I'm bored. Last night was line matching, and I wrote down every time they made line changes, who is out against who and everything like that. One game, it was failed possessions in the neutral zone, and the Kupari line was like through the roof, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is not what I was expecting necessarily. And they were bad, and that was in terms of like raw count too, not even like a per 60 thing with the minutes. No, they had like way more than anyone else, and they're playing a third of the time. I was like, woo, okay, this is not good. So I think that, generally speaking, you're totally right, though. What does Rasmus Kupari do could be our new say something nice about Billy Hanola segment. That's just, what does he do? Because I agree with you, and he falls into a similar. No, I'm kidding. A Mason Appleton camp for me, where both of them, I feel like Mason Appleton in particular, every season starts, and I'm like, maybe there's more here than I thought. And then the season progresses. I'm like, no, I think actually I had a pretty accurate thought on who this guy was. And it's not necessarily all bad, just maybe some rose-colored goggles to start the season off.
For sure.
And one last thing on Kupari is I think too is once things stop happening for him, everything like regresses. So like he's not as physical, he's not as involved in the forecheck. I find that when he has the puck less, he's not able to lean into those other things. It kind of makes everything else fall down like a backwards domino. So I've kind of always felt that way with Kupari. I've been impressed. I was impressed the first 20 games or whatever it was, but like he's in nothing territory for that's a press box guy in the playoffs for me.
I agree with you both. That was trending up or trending down. Thank you everyone for taking part. I saw a lot of great comments in the chat, people giving their picks as well. So that was fun. We do that every single Sunday, trending up, trending down. Super fun kind of segment that we've brought up about a month ago on the show and have gone ever since. Let's get right to the one burning question segment. Hop right into the next segment. We usually end the show with this one, but this is one burning question, a segment where we throw it to you, the chat room, for any question that you may have for us regarding the Winnipeg Jets. We're going to attempt to rapid fire through these questions. So drop your question right now in the chat below. And while you're down there, hit the like button. We would really appreciate it if you did. Lets YouTube know that we are putting out some great content. So drop that down below. But while you're all dropping your comments down below, I'm going to ask a question to these two. I think there's a pretty clear top 5 Winnipeg Jets performances this year. And I'm going to ask you both if last night's game against Colorado is better than any of these games. Okay. 8-1 versus Boston.
No.
5-0 versus Minnesota. We're in the no category. 6-3 versus Florida, the second game of the home and home. 4-1 versus Dallas, the game where they clinched the best start in NHL history and just dummied Dallas. And 6-3 against the Rangers on the road. Was last night's performance against the Colorado Avalanche, where they had no high danger chances in the final 2 periods, absolutely stifled McKinnon and Makar, better than any of those performances from this past season? Yes or no?
Great question. Those were some great games. Those were some great,
I think
great games.
My quick answer is I think it was better than the Boston one.
Ooh, the 8-1
That was a
Boston
bit
win.
of a
Interesting.
that was a
Okay.
bit of a like
Boston
out of
sucks this
hand.
year.
Boston sucked. Yeah, whatever. Like Colorado, like this was a game of when I look at answering this question, I think about were those games that the Winnipeg Jets won or that their opponents lost? And I put the Boston
Mhm.
win into that was a game that the Boston Bruins lost. Yes, the Winnipeg Jets were good. So I maybe I'm on Jacob's side with that one. I don't think it's better than the Florida game. I don't think it's better. That Rangers game was unbelievable. That was a really, really strong performance and what I like to call the beginning of the end. They saw the Gabe Vilardi baseball bat the
Right.
puck down and they just had to trade their captain after that. They were just embarrassed. But I don't know. Great question. Great question.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the back of a back-to-back, no high danger chances from Nathan McKinnon. Like, definitely in the same category. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to hear what everyone in the chat has to say about that one because,
Yeah.
man, I don't know.
They're too busy dropping their questions, so we can't get to the chat's thoughts. We're putting too much on their plate here at the end of today's show. Let's get into it. The questions are flowing into the chat. There's so many. We're gonna rapid fire these. Jeff Kabilas, my one burning question: what is Don Sweeney thinking of his Scheifele snub now?
What is Don Sweeney thinking of his Gabe Vilardi snub?
Exactly. No. Fun fact: Mark Scheifele second in the NHL in goals since that announcement. Second in the NHL in goals in the entire season. And Sam Bennett, since the announcement, has 0 goals. Has the same amount of goals as us 3 on this show. So pretty interesting snub there for Mark Scheifele. Is Chaz our guy or just another guy passing through the farm? Lyss, I know you have been kind of locked into the Moose lately.
Locked into the Moose.
4-0-1 in 2025, off to a hot start. What are you seeing from Chaz?
Chaz is good. I think this is a player that is really interesting, and the Manitoba Moose have been a storyline to say the least this season. Chaz Lucius can play elite hockey and does so with a little bit of runway after coming back from some ridiculous injuries. Most guys miss as much time as this guy has in his most key developmental years. They're done. They're out. They've taken themselves out of the conversation of being an NHL player, but there are still some incredible flashes from this player. Definitely something there. Definitely something there. One of the prospects I'm still the highest on the Winnipeg Jets prospect system.
Okay, sweet. Jacob, I'll let you take this one. The Jets are top of the league. Is the Jets fan base typical or slightly more fragile than other fan bases? I know you were in Toronto for a while, which is very fragile fan base.
Keep that to yourself. I don't know.
Let's just say.
Yeah. When we say fragile, just to clarify, is that like when things are like?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the commenter meant by that, but let's just say like the emotional swings as a fan of like when they win, they're the best team in the league. When they lose, they're the worst.
I don't think this fan base is very fragile. Sorry, the question is how is it exactly phrased?
I'll bring it back up. The Jets are the top team in the league. Is the Jets fan base typical or slightly more fragile than other fan bases?
I would say slightly more fragile, just because I think, understandably that this team has seen
Canadian market.
Yeah. Franchise has seen a lot of disappointment in the playoffs for a couple of years now. I think that since 2017-18, that unbelievable run, we have not seen a first round win aside from the COVID year and a second round series in this city. I think from that, people are a bit on edge. And given some of the, attendance concerns that have come up a little bit, there's kind of a bit of anxiety there. But I think all in all, though, I don't want to say it's too fragile because the support here is relatively, attendance aside, relatively unwavering.
Love it. I will say, and I don't mean to throw like a just absolute stray bullet at the Ottawa Senators fan base, but man, when anyone from the Sens, whether like any media or not media, any fan run thing for the Senators or fans, they're like running polls as if they're like, is tonight's game against Detroit a must-win game? And I had to like check the calendar. I'm like, it's January 2nd. They could lose this game in regulation and go on with their life and make the playoffs. Like that is the most dramatic thing I think I've ever heard. So I think if I had to like say a fan base, I hate to say, I hope there's no Sens fans in the chat, but my goodness. And maybe it makes sense. They've missed the playoffs how many years with expectations. That'll do that.
Dude, but imagine if
they're
you had
traumatized. I get
to
it.
play in a
Yeah.
market where you have to drive to Steinbach to see a game. That's what you have to do in Ottawa. You're going to Canada. Could you imagine how freaking fragile this market would be? It's like, oh my God, we're going to. And no offense to Steinbach, like, but you're saying out of the general vicinity of Winnipeg, it's 40 minutes away.
Hey, they're about to have the second nicest rink in all Manitoba, so maybe the Jets will play there. Who knows?
Maybe
at this rate,
practice.
Who knows? Nothing phases
Training
me,
camp. Should Helly always play the second of a back-to-back? I won't say always, but I'll say matchup depending. I really like what they did here with playing him against the divisional opponent. If there's ever like the second half of back-to-back is Dallas or Colorado or Minnesota, I would save Hellebuyck for that game. Bigger need, top 6 forward or top 4 D-man. The question that is transcended across years here in this market. Rapid
Can
fire.
we change this question to middle
What?
6 forward?
Middle 6
No.
center.
Oh man,
Well,
okay.
Well,
No, we
whatever.
can't.
Sure. You
Yeah.
can define it as whatever you want. Who has this one?
Both of you, rapid fire. You don't have to explain yourself. Just what
Right,
is the
rapid fire.
bigger
Yeah,
need?
fair
Top
enough.
6 forward. Top 6 forward.
Okay.
Top 4 D-man.
Okay. Well, now we have to debate it. No, I'm kidding. I'll take top 4 D-man. I've been pretty adamant on that all season long, so I'm gonna stick with it. Do we have the horses to acquire Pettersson? I don't know. I don't really know what the price really is for a player like that in the middle of their prime, a little bit of a down year, really high cap it. I don't know. It's
The
a
second
weird...
half of this question is crazy to me, though. Not gonna lie to you.
No, I don't think it would cost Kyle Connor. Like, okay, does Cole Perfetti?
Guys, the Jets don't have any of the pieces here to make a deal. That's just the reality. They don't, because even if you dangle Kyle Connor here, the Canucks don't want a winger. So, like, I'm not saying that's even happening here, but to me, he's out of the equation. They don't want a bunch of wingers back. They want a center. If you offered Mark Scheifele for Elias Pettersson, which is never happening here just because of the no move and just this isn't happening, that's a no in the deal. So, and there's not enough prospects, cupboards, or young primed players. Jets have nothing in their arsenal for this.
It's kind of giving like Canada's the 51st state, where it's like, I don't really need to explain why, like, just like, no, like, it just because what? Like, that's not how any of this works. Like, no, it's just no.
Let's dive into that a little bit more. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, let's get into that.
I think with the Pettersson thing, I feel like that one, if and when it happens, not to the Jets, obviously, but that's it might look like an OHL trade here, right? Where it's like just like a bunch of pieces that I just don't think the Winnipeg Jets have, and yeah. Whoa, we're taking words out of context, waiters. That's not what I said. But yeah, that was there's still a few questions, but we're running long here today. So that was one burning question. Thank you so much to everyone in chat who dropped their questions down below. We really hope you're enjoying the stream. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like button as well. Apple's timeline, they said week to week. I'd say a week and a half ago on I don't even remember, lower or upper body. They were very secretive about that injury. So he has yet to resume skating. So he has a tummy ache.
He has a tummy ache. What was Logan Stanley mid-body injury early in the year? That was a new one.
I love that
for sure.
That's awesome.
Mid-body. It's like, all right. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this edition of WST Sunday Live. Jacob, you know where to find his work, sportsnet.ca. Jacob, plug what you've got coming up in the next coming days over on the site.
Check out my latest piece here on sportsnet.ca just about how the Jets line shuffle unleashed Ehlers and all-around performance versus the Avalanche. Proud of that piece. It was kind of what I reiterated at the start of the show about Ehlers and Lowry's duo, along with some other addition, and then some other general notes at the bottom as well.
Absolutely. And Lyss, we talked about it last week, but I'll give you the floor again. You announced a new show, Chell Chit Chat. Let people know when they can expect the first episode and what they can expect when that first episode comes out.
Yeah, I'm super psyched. It's my new little podcast, YouTube project, whatever platform you prefer consuming your content on. But the first episode is coming out on February 5th. 10 amazing guests talking about all kinds of really cool stuff and developing a bit of a resource there. A little bit of a hint, a little bit of a teaser for everyone here, just because if you're tuning into Sunday Live, we appreciate the support. I have 2.5 guests, as I like to say, from Winnipeg on this show. So it's got a little bit of a more national, international presence with some of the people I'm bringing on, but 2 people particularly from Winnipeg and one who is Winnipeg adjacent, very connected to Winnipeg. I know them through Winnipeg. So that's kind of how I brought them onto the show. So a little bit of a local presence as well. So some really neat stories we're going to share on the show.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. That's Jacob Stoller. That's Lyss Houde. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching WST Sunday Live. We really appreciate you taking the time Sunday morning, waking up early with us. We've got nearly 200 people here with us live on YouTube. We really, really appreciate it. And we hope that you hit the like button on the way out and maybe tell a friend about WST Sunday Live. We have an absolute blast bringing you this show every single Sunday. And we love the fact that you tune in and drop the great questions, the great commentary down in the chat below. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the football today. I don't really know. I'm most excited for the Packers Eagles game, I think. And I think that game could be sneaky. Everyone's picking the Broncos as an upset. Let's be real. Bills are going to win.
What?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have time to get into this.
Don't get it started.
Yeah. Here we go. But enjoy the football today, people. It's NFL Sunday. It's a playoff edition of NFL Sunday. So enjoy the games, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back Tuesday. The Jets are back against the Vancouver Canucks, and we will see you back next Sunday coming out of another Hockey Night in Canada game against the Calgary Flames. See you all next Sunday for another edition of WST Sunday Live. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Peace.